Well, I couldn't be more excited to share this conversation with pretty much my favorite person, Roger Deveau. He is my life partner, my business partner, and he's got a lot to share. So buckle up. Let's go for a ride with Roger Deveau.
Here, we want to show you what's possible in the world of sobriety. We introduce you to the various tools, programs, and resources available, because there are way more options than you may even realize. We want you to find the one that works for you.
And we do it through people. People who share their pathway to recovery and will help you find your path to freedom. Because getting sober can feel hard enough. You don't have to do it alone. I'm Sarah Roberts.
And I'm Roger Deveau, and this is Sobriety Starts Here.
All right. Well, I'm always excited for any excuse to talk to you, Roger. So, Roger Deveau, thank you so much for being with me today.
Always exciting talking to you.
All right. Well, let's get started. I want to learn a little bit more about you, of course, and we're going to get into your story. But to start out, I really want you to share some of the work that you do with the brain, because what has really impacted my life is the way that I now understand how the brain works and how the brain can almost trick me or yeah, I guess I'll say that. Like, it can trick me into doing the things that I don't want to do. And it's like, wait a second, I made this decision that I wanted to quit drinking, or I wanted to quit smoking, or I wanted to quit eating junk food, or I wanted to quit drugs, or whatever it is. And yet my brain keeps pulling me backwards. And I know that you have a really cool way of explaining it that helps people to quit those habits that are not serving us. So I really want you to dig in right off the bat and get started on the brain.
Well, it's funny. I started being really interested in trying to figure out why we do the things we do. Why is it so hard to make change? Why do we get stuck in these patterns? Why do we try a diet and 3 months later we seem right back doing what we're doing? Why do we want to quit drinking and we fall off the wagon a month later? Why is it so hard to do the things we want? There has to be more to it than willpower. And I was reading a book from a Dr. A.K. Pradeep, and I read something that literally changed the way I look at life forever. And that's this, that every single second, there's a million bits of information coming into our brain. So picture your smell, your sight, taste, temperature, all of these things. If there's a breeze on your body, all these things that we typically don't really think about, but we're feeling all these things, even the clothes on our body, every little piece where these clothes are touching our body is more information for our brain to take in. So there's a million bits of information being given to our brain, but consciously we can only process up to 140. And that's when your brain's working right. So this isn't like when you just woke up before you had your coffee or you're really tired like most of us are. So 99.99% of the information that comes into our brain happens without us even knowing it. Our subconscious processes it. So now let's think about that. How does that relate to our lives? Well, when we're trying to make a change and we're consciously trying to do something, we're only working with 0.0001% of what's going on with our brain. The rest is happening automatically. And that's why it's so hard to create change, because so much of what we do happens without us even giving it permission. It's automatic. And so looking into it more and more, I realized that there really are three factors that determine all of the momentum in our lives. Anytime we want to make a decision, anytime we want to do something, there are three factors that are either bringing us towards our goal or bringing us away from it. And those factors are our beliefs. And that's the core. Our beliefs determine just about everything we do. And these have been instilled to us throughout our whole lives as kids, and then also in our experiences. Anytime we get a thought, we form a new neuron in our brain, and that becomes a new belief. And every time we focus on it, every time we do something that enforces this belief. So let's say I have a new belief. I've come to a country and seen snow for the first time. And I'm excited and go, wow, snow is fun. And then I go skiing and it's even more fun. I'm building that belief. I'm building that neuron. And then I have a snowball fight. And I'm like, wow, snow is even more fun. Every time I do something that goes with that belief, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So now, though, imagine some of the beliefs we have. We're not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not lovable. No one likes me. Beliefs that we may have been carrying with us our entire lives. Building strength, building strength, building strength. These are the core beliefs we have. And that's why it's so hard to make a change. If I have this belief going one way, it's brought me in a trajectory my whole life, and all of a sudden now I'm going, you know what? I'm going to go on a diet. I want to be healthy. And I'm trying to just completely change gears and go in a different direction of my life. My body, my brain goes, wait a second, hold up. This is not how we do things. I'm comfortable doing things the way we've always done them, and let's bring you back. And that really shows up in our habits. So the first thing is our brain and our beliefs. That's the real core of everything we do. And our beliefs form our habits. And so because these are the things we do every single day. So I've had a certain belief that, well, I'm not likable, and so I don't treat people very well because I already know they're not going to like me. So my habit is to not be very friendly to people when I meet them. Or I don't think I'm worthy of being loved, so I don't love myself and I eat junk and I eat crap. Or I drink a lot, or I take some form of drug to escape. Whatever it is, our habits end up mirroring what our beliefs are. And habits are really hard to change. As you probably know, you deal with a lot of people dealing with struggling with sugar because we've built up a habit over our lifetime of eating the foods we eat, and a lot of those have a lot of sugar.
Well, and I want to just interject for a second. So I also want to talk to the point that our beliefs might be, we believe that eating sugar is fun, that it's part of connection. We believe that drinking or doing drugs is how we relate to other people. Like, I think staying on the lines of addiction is really important to just get those examples across. So I want you to keep going, but I really want to zero in on the people that are listening typically are people that are looking to get sober or are in early recovery or in recovery. And so we can really connect with that feeling that I'm missing out. My belief is that I'm missing out, that there is something that I'm not getting in my life because I have quit this drug that connected me to people, that made me feel better, that made me feel more likable, more lovable, made me feel more included and more connected. So let's keep on that train of thought.
Well, and it's funny you bring up sugar. So we'll talk about that in a second. So basically, you've got your beliefs, which form your core habits, which form the daily actions we take. And all this together leads to the life we're living now. And so it's funny, you mentioned sugar. So let's talk about how these beliefs can become so ingrained in us. How many one-year-olds get cake for their birthday? Because you can't celebrate without cake. You can't celebrate without sugar. A job well done, you go to a meeting, you're at a sports event, and you do something, you do a great job. What do? You go with the team for ice cream or pizza after. We use it as a form of celebration. Let's look at alcohol. And this is very much how it ended up showing up in my life. Alcohol is very sophisticated. You drink alcohol, you drink fancy wine or whiskey or bourbon. It's something that we incorporate into our business meetings. A networking lunch, well, you go out for drinks. It's something that we have these beliefs. Well, I can't go to a business meeting without drinking because I'll be left out or I won't be able to connect. Or we have this belief that I'm not confident enough on my own, so I need a few drinks to loosen me up. Look at dating. How many people could date if they didn't have some form of drink or something to loosen them up? We build up all these individual little beliefs that we keep reinforcing through our lives. So I think I'm going to go start dating. I have a few drinks. I get loose. I'm out on the dance floor. We have a great time. Therefore, I'm really reinforcing that belief that I need alcohol to be a fun date. Which means that my habit is every time I do this, every time I go on a date, A habit is to order drinks, to go somewhere we can get drinks, to maybe go to a bar, to go to a club, to go to a restaurant that has a great wine menu. Whatever it is, we really start building our habits around this belief. And so what are our actions? We drink. I go on a date. My habit is to always drink before going on a date. So what do? I drink. So what does this all mean and how does it show up in our lives? Well, I want you to picture a big tower, and you're either going up the tower or you're coming down. And so picture this tower as it has a big steep staircase that you can walk to get to the top, but it has a slide going down. And the reason why I say that is because most of us, when we're looking to make a change, it's because we don't like the trajectory on. Our beliefs and our habits are bringing us down a path that we don't like. And that's the path we're already on. So maybe that's we're drinking too much. Maybe that's we're eating too much junk food, whatever it is. So it's easier to go down a slide and keep going the way we're going than to go up the stairs to where we maybe want to get. So imagine this tower in the form of just drinking. At the top of the tower is what we want, and that's to not drink. At the bottom of the tower is everything we've always been doing and all the crap that comes along with what drinking's brought into our lives, or whatever drug of choice you use.
So would that be that our beliefs are at the bottom of the tower, and then what's at the top, and then what we want is at the top of the tower?
Yeah, well, our beliefs, and I'm glad you brought that up, our beliefs are the direction we're taking. So right now, my beliefs are putting me on that slide because that's what's easy. It's what I'm used to. It's what my habits lead me to do. So I'm going down that slide. And when I was drinking, this is where I was at. It was, I'm going down this slide. I'm drinking at lunchtime. I'm doing things that it's affecting my business. It's affecting my work. I'm driving after having a pitcher of beer at lunch. These are all things I didn't want in my life, but this was the trajectory I was on, and it was easy to keep doing what I was doing. So I was going down the slide. But I made a decision that I had a problem and I needed to stop drinking. I wanted to stop, but I didn't stop. Because what happens is I got a new desire. And this is what people do when they want to go on a diet or want to stop drinking. Now I've got a new desire. So I'm getting off the slide. That's it. No more of this trajectory. I think I'm going to stop drinking. So I get off the slide and I start going up the steep stairs. And we live on the penthouse of an apartment building. And sometimes for a workout, we take the stairs because it's really hard to go upstairs. It's really fun and easy to, as I'm trying to go up the stairs to get my new goal, look at that slide, which is doing everything that I've always been doing, and just jump back on and keep going down the slide, because that's a lot less work. And that's what happens is we get off, we make a decision. I'm going to stop drinking, and you get off on the stairs and you start walking up towards your new goal. But what happens very quickly, you start getting tired. You see how fun the slide is and how great it was. And very quickly we end up going, whew, I'm out of breath, I'm tired, I'm jumping off, and I'm getting back on the slide.
So is it all about changing our beliefs so that we have to decide that not drinking is way more fun than drinking? How do we get to the point where we actually want to keep walking up those stairs of the tower?
You've got it. And you know, it's funny, this is what most people don't do when they make the decision to make a change in their lives, is they don't focus on new beliefs. And in fact, what a lot of people do is they just focus on all the poor beliefs and all the decisions they've made that got them on the trajectory they're on right now. And they don't, so you're fighting it the whole time. You're going up those stairs and you're fighting it because you've made a decision you're going to change. But all of your habits and all of your beliefs are trying to pull you back to that slide. So what do? How can you get it so that you keep going up those stairs and you get to the top of the tower? And so what I want you to do is imagine all of the beliefs you've had up until now have given you the life that you have right now. And you've built those beliefs over time. What you need to do is give yourself a new belief to focus on. So if I want to stop drinking, instead of focusing on how I'm more loose when I drink and I drink to escape these problems from my past and these hurts or these traumas, or I'm uncomfortable in one-on-one meetings with people when I'm not drinking, instead of focusing on all those past beliefs, because every time I think of them, I'm reinforcing them. Even if I'm looking at them in a negative light, what I need to do is give myself a new positive belief to focus on. So what I'm going to do is start telling myself that, yes, I want to stop drinking. Why? Because life is a whole lot more fun when I'm present for it. That's a new belief. That's something I've never had before. And that's a new belief I'm going to bring. Or maybe it's people can get to know the real me when I'm not drinking.
But do you think that that's realistic? And I'm only playing devil's advocate because I didn't use this. Well, I guess I did use this sort of in my life when I got sober, but I want to know how easy is it for people to decide to have a new belief and then actually believe it? Because I feel like maybe we can all say when we're first getting sober, life is so much better sober, but we're not really believing it. And I know that we've talked a lot about affirmations, and I'm not a huge fan of affirmations at times. I'm a big fan of affirmations. I'm a big fan of affirmations when we actually fucking believe them. But when we really don't fucking believe them and we just post things on our mirrors and try to tell ourselves these great things that we don't really believe, I think they work backwards. I think that they actually backfire on us. So can you address that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you brought up affirmations and brought this all up, because what happens, I'm now going to post on my mirror that I'm the healthiest I've ever been and I'm at my perfect physique and feeling more energy with every day, right? And what happens, it's not a bad thing to say. These are good things to say to yourself in general. But what most of us do is, as we say it, we think to ourselves, well, this is bullshit. I don't really believe this thing. And that compounds over every other day. What happens? My belief is that's not true. So every day I look in the mirror and I read that, and then I look at my body and maybe I go, well, that's not true. And I feel sluggish. And I'm still, the problem, reinforcing those negative beliefs. And that's why 3 months later, I'm not even saying those affirmations anymore. I forgot I was ever planning on doing it. And this is what most people do in their lives. So I'm glad you brought up that, oh, well, this isn't how you got sober, but I'm going to argue it actually is. So let me explain the trick of what people can do to turn this brand new belief that in the back of your head you may not necessarily believe or you may think is bullshit, how to turn it into a belief that carries you to the top of the tower. So what happens is I make this new belief, and that's life is better when I'm present and sober. Let's just use that as an example. What most people do is they set that goal and they go, my action is I'm no longer going to drink. And I start walking up those stairs. But my old beliefs are still nagging at me. Well, you're not as fun. Well, it's not this, it's not that, whatever it is. And my habits start pulling me back to that slide as well. Because what's my habit? I get home from work, I crack a beer and I drink it. These are my habits. Everything's fighting me back. So what I need to do to stay on those stairs is take that new belief, focus on it, and then give myself an action that can prove that belief to myself and give me a positive reward quickly. So what does that mean? Let's take what you did for an example. You wanted to quit drinking. And so what you did to not tell people you weren't drinking anymore, so you kind of stumbled on this by accident, was you started telling people you were into health. You were into health and wellness, so you couldn't drink. Were you actually into health and wellness? No, you weren't. You were interested in not drinking, but you started telling people and saying out loud that you were interested in health. Now, what did you have to do? If you just told me and one of your friends, all of a sudden, no, I'm not drinking because I'm into health now. Well, they never see you go to the gym. So what do you need to do? Well, you're going to start going to the gym and taking care of yourself so that you look like this person in health. And what happened is you started telling people, yes, I'm into health, so I can't drink because I care about my body. And then you actually started going to the gym. And very quickly, you started feeling better. You started getting results. And those results, you started getting more energy. Maybe you started looking better in the mirror. You started liking the way you felt. Those positive affirmations helped you believe that you actually cared about health. So now what happens is as you get that power, that reinforcement of to what you're doing, those stairs start getting less and less steep because you're building now that belief in your brain. You're focusing on it. So that neuron in your brain is getting bigger and bigger. You focus on health. You believe you're being healthy, so you can't drink. And your actions are starting to reinforce that. Even though your habits might still be to go home and wake up in the morning and take your time and not go to the gym, your new actions are to go to the gym, and it's making you feel good. So then what else happens? You keep telling yourself, I believe in health and fitness and wellness. Well, I'm doing this work at the gym. I'm starting to feel better. I'm telling people I'm into health. Now maybe I'm going to start eating better because now I'm eating ice cream and all this junk because I quit drinking, but that doesn't match this image of me being into health. So now you start eating better. And that makes you feel better, builds your energy, and again, keeps reinforcing this belief that you gave yourself that you are into health. And so now those stairs start to turn from stairs and now starts turning into an escalator. So now that slide beside you, even though your old beliefs are still stronger, you're not focusing on those anymore. So what happens is when you're not focusing on those old beliefs and patterns, they actually start to shrink. So that's why now these stairs are getting easier. Now you're on an escalator. And so you're still going slowly up because you're going around and around, but it's not so much work anymore. And that slide is looking less and less fun. It's looking less and less of a problem. And that's what happens when you keep reinforcing those beliefs. You keep giving yourself little wins that you can do, and those wins will keep building that new belief. So when you started, you may not have believed it. You didn't believe you were into health and wellness. You didn't believe life could be more fun without alcohol. But as you kept taking those things, then you get into yoga and you start feeling better and you start building up your self-worth and self-respect. You meet other people who are also into self-love and health. And that helps reinforce that belief. And next thing you know, you're climbing to the top of that elevator you're climbing to the top of the tower on an elevator, and you don't even see that slide anymore. You can't even imagine a time when you would want to take that slide to the bottom of the tower instead of raising to the top with your new beliefs like you are now. And that's the key. So anyone listening to this, struggling with giving up alcohol, giving up a drug of choice, giving up a bad habit and a bad pattern that's harmful to you in your life, something you want to change, yes, you have to make a decision. Make the decision to get sober. But more than that, give yourself a new belief to strive for. Start giving yourself the belief that you're not just giving up alcohol, even though you love it so much, but it's bringing your life in a path you don't like and you have to quit or die. That's not enough. Give yourself a new belief to strive for. A new belief that your life is better without that substance. Your life will be better without it. And what happens is when you can focus on that new belief, you can now start to actually look and go, okay, what can I do today to reinforce that belief and get a positive feeling? And it could be small. It could be as small as not drinking that day. It could be as small as doing something with your children that's fun that you normally wouldn't do because maybe you were drinking so you couldn't drive. Or doing something with your spouse. Or doing something for yourself. Take 10 minutes. Go to a spa or go do a movie or do something for yourself that makes you feel good so that you can reinforce that your life is now better because of the choices you're making. It's not easy at first.
Yeah.
But it gets there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I really like the way that you explain it. I really can visualize the tower and the slide and then changing to an escalator, because that really is how it happens in our lives once we get that momentum, right? So it's all about building momentum. I do still feel like, oh, that's hard to create this new belief that we actually believe, because I know for a lot of us, I mean, we are just quitting drinking or our drug of choice because we have to, because we have come to a place in our lives where we feel like we just can't continue with it anymore. Of course, you know my story. And for me, I felt like that DUI was just my absolute rock bottom. I couldn't imagine getting back into my life and drinking again, because I mean, it was just such a shameful event and I had to completely change my whole life. But that was what was also so powerful about my story, is that I did have to change everything in my life. So I think it's really interesting the way I can see your example play out in my own life, because I really did have to change my habits. So yes, I guess I probably started with a belief that my life was going to be better. I mean, I can't even honestly say that that's true, Roger. For me, it was, I knew I didn't have a choice. I knew I had to quit drinking because my life had completely crumbled around me.
Well, so
And
let's actually focus on that for a second, because I love what you're saying, and a lot of people listening to this might be in the same boat you are. And so I would challenge you, and again, you might not have consciously been doing this, but think about what happens. Think about any time, and this is why rock bottoms happen. And people look, and different people have different levels of rock bottom. And I truly believe it's because of this. You got to a point where you said, I have no choice. I either change or die. I can no longer do the job I'm going to do. I can no longer do this. Like, my life is falling apart. So I either change or die. And I would argue you still had a choice. You could have still kept going down that hole, deeper and deeper, until you lost everything, until you lost your home, until you lost your health. Now, to you, that wasn't an option, but to some people it is. And the reason for that is because I believe you hit that point. We all have to hit it. Some people hit it after just having an embarrassing work meeting, and they maybe decide, you know what, I need to quit drinking because life is better without than with, because I embarrass myself with. In your case, it took that DUI. It took that happening to you for you to go to get that belief, whether you chose it or not. You were able to finally get that belief that I can't even see it right now, but I know life is going to be better without alcohol because I can't keep going this way. So even though you didn't physically sit and say to yourself, you know what, I want to quit drinking, so I need to, you know what, life is better without drinking. You didn't look at it that way. You looked at it as the way where I don't have a choice. But by just getting to the point where you didn't see there was a choice is the point where you started believing internally that a life without drinking was better for you than a life with.
okay, so I could totally get on board with that. I totally get what you're saying there. And that is the truth, because the truth for my first days in sobriety were, this sucks. And I don't have a clue how I'm supposed to go the rest of my life without drinking alcohol. Like, I couldn't even imagine stringing together a day, 2 days, 3 days without it. In fact, I relapsed 4 days after I had made the decision to never drink again. And then 4 years went by and I relapsed again. So definitely I think that I would like to talk to you about relapse and what you feel happened in my brain that allowed me to take the slide even after 4 years of getting to the top of the tower. But I do want to remind people in early sobriety that it isn't necessarily going to look like, the belief isn't going to necessarily be, I know that life is better in recovery. Like, I see all, you know, I might have met people that are in recovery. I might know some sober people and, you know, they sure seem like they're having a great life. Like, that's probably not reality for most people in early sobriety. It's, you know, fuck that. Like, it sucks.
Well, and it's maybe I can only keep my kids if I get sober. I mean, that's a belief, and that's a belief that will start getting you to the top of that tower. And it's because you're right. It's not always this glamorous belief where it needs to be, well, life is going to be thrilling without alcohol, because it's not necessarily right away. So it's hard to believe that, but it is. And everybody's thing is going to be different because they're at different situations. And so it's a lot like you mentioned, you know, 4 years later, you relapsed. Well, what changed? You moved to a new city. You started hanging around with new people, And all of a sudden, this life that you built that was always reinforcing your belief because you had your new habits. You went to the gym, you felt good. The people around you knew that's what you did. The friends around you knew that's what you did. So they all supported that belief. What happens when you went to a new situation and a new place is all of a sudden, it wasn't, your habits weren't there helping you. You met people and right away, what did they want to do? They wanted to have a drink with you. And it felt awkward all of a sudden living the lifestyle you were living. And so what that does is those stairs, that elevator turned into an escalator. And then but you still fought it. You didn't drink right away. But then you met people and people you were working with were doing it. And people were telling you, you know what? Oh, I'm sure by now you can have one drink and be fine. And that was a new belief. And this is the power of beliefs. They work for you and against you. You started getting a new belief that you could drink and it would be different. You could drink a glass of wine or two and be okay. And you probably didn't just relapse with a binge drink. You probably relapsed by having a drink with someone and being like, oh, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah. So Roger, you're acting like you don't know the story. So
I don't remember how it happened.
You might have done this. So my story is that yes, I moved to a new city, and within the first week or so, for the first week, I kept saying no, I don't drink. I was telling everybody I didn't drink, and so no, thank you for the invites. And finally, I just dropped my guard, and I was just like, fuck it, fine, let's do it. Let's have one glass of wine and see how it goes and see how it feels. And I white knuckled it. I felt like, oh, maybe I could do this, even though I was white knuckling. I wanted 2 glasses, 3 glasses, 5 glasses, but I stopped at 1 and kind of decided, okay, well, maybe I can do this. And then 2 nights later, it was 2 glasses. And a few nights later, it was way too much. And that was New Year's. And I woke up the next morning and made a new decision that exactly reinforces what you're saying. My decision when I looked myself in the eyes in the mirror, hungover, feeling awful, feeling ashamed and embarrassed and disappointed in myself, was that this is not the way that I want to keep going. I don't want to keep taking the slide. I really do want to continue going up the stairs. And that's what I've continued to do as I've moved forward. So I really can see how your process here has played out in my own story.
Well, and it's a real cool, I'm glad you actually brought up relapse in particular, because yes, it's you built this 4 years and then all of a sudden you got a new situation and you cracked and you drank. And so it feels like that 4 years, what was that for? That 4 years of building that belief, where did it get me? But if you look at it, because you were now on this elevator quickly going up, when you relapsed, you didn't jump on the slide and hit to the bottom of the tower. You still had all that elevator ride to go down. And so you jumped, you started drinking again, you started going back down that slide. But very quickly, because you're so getting to the top of the tower, you've been on such a good trajectory, it didn't take you a year to realize. It took a few times for you to realize that, you know what, even though you're going back on the slide again, the elevator is right there, and that was a nice ride, and I'm gonna jump back on. And so it was really easy for you to get off. You didn't have to start on the stairs again. Maybe for some people, they have to start on the escalator and work back to get to the elevator. Maybe for some people like you, it was you got on the slide again to give it another whirl because you forgot what it was like. And then you realized, no, you know what? I like the elevator ride better. And you jumped right back on that elevator and have been sober since for over 10 years now. And that's the difference, because for that 4 years, what you were doing was building that belief up, building that new belief that life is better on this side. And at the same time, you were letting your old beliefs shrink and wither away. So even though you might stumble, I mean, if you're watching this and you relapsed, I know how easy it could be to feel down on yourself and feel like it's the end of the world. But all that progress you made has not been lost. And you can very quickly get off that slide again, and you're still closer to the top of the tower you were before you started this journey. And keep going with it. Keep giving yourself that new belief and keep working on it. Keep trying to find things you can do in your life that support that belief that you have. Because even if you slip, like Sarah mentioned in her story, waking up on New Year's morning and feeling like crap, that reinforced her new positive belief that life is better without drinking. And that's why she was able to jump back on and continue down her path, and why you've been sober for 10 years. And it's now who you are. I know, and I know you can, we can never say what we will never do for sure, because you never know what the future holds. But I know for you right now, and for me right now, you couldn't see a world where you're drinking again. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Oh, that's definitely right. Absolutely. And it's so true when you talked about earlier, the belief that life is so much better in recovery. It is so much better in recovery. It's so awesome when we are connected with so many amazing people who are such badasses doing such great work. The way I really look at recovery, honestly, it's like we're the ones living life. And this doesn't take away from anybody who does drink that is living life, but it's just such a different way of seeing the world, even with all of these memes and all of these messages and all of the marketing that we're seeing in the world of, this drug being pushed on us. And I'm referring to alcohol, but, it's being pushed on us everywhere we turn. And it's so ridiculous. And I love when people use the example of replace the word alcohol with cocaine anywhere that it's marketed. I mean, would we be laughing at this? Would we think it was okay to be forcing this drug on a society that is dying because of what happens to our lives, both figuratively and literally in our lives? We are damaging our relationships. We are killing our health. We are ruining any chance of having a full, vibrant, fabulous life when we are mired in addiction. And of course, this is not saying anything to people who drink normally, that, have one glass of wine every 6 months or whatever, even more than that. It doesn't matter. But I'm on this whole project, we are talking to people who want to get away from using drugs and alcohol to escape their lives. We want to remind people that getting away from it and living without it is truly the way to love your life. It really is out there for all of us to enjoy. And I know that so many people can be cynical when we first get sober. I know I really never thought that I'd be able to buy in to the concept that living alcohol free was going to be a better way of living. I can tell you with 100% certainty that when I first got sober, I truly felt like my life was over. And although I knew I had to quit drinking, I truly believed that it was never going to be as fun, as engaging, as exciting. I never thought I'd be able to enjoy social outings or being in crowds or being with other people at all in the same way sober as I had while I was drinking. So,
well, and it's funny because it really lends to why we're doing this project in the first place, is to help people get those wins as quickly as possible, and to help people believe that it is possible through hearing other people's stories and seeing what they've done. And this shows up in my life as a perfect example. I was someone that loved drinking and had fun doing it. I loved the taste of it. I loved who I was when I was drinking. But what happened was I started actually seeing, and you talked about we're in this world surrounding us with these things, and it's not even just drinking was mine, but maybe it's shopping, maybe it's sex for you, maybe it's food. We find these things, and all of these things are pushed on us from this society around us, telling us that these things will make us feel better. And so alcohol was mine, and I found myself drinking every day. And it was funny. What made me really start to look at drinking as maybe something that I need to look at was I was going through a real tough month financially, and a tough few months financially. And so I decided, you know what, I should probably budget. Let's figure out where my money's going, what it's being spent on. So this is at a time when money's tight. And when I looked on the last few months, on average, I was spending over $500 a month on alcohol alone. And it's like, I mean, I could buy a BMW for that kind of money. And here I am taking the bus, living in an apartment, feeling like money's tight, and I'm spending $500 a month on alcohol. And so that was the first kind of like, wow, even when I feel like I don't have a lot of money, I'm still spending tons of it on alcohol. Why is that? And I started looking at it, but I still didn't feel like, well, you know what, there's no reason to stop because life is so much fun without it. I couldn't imagine a life without it because I would go to business meetings. I would go to networking events and go out social with people, and it was always built around drinking. And even though I didn't really want to stop, I started finding myself questioning, why is it that we rely so much on this? Why is so much of my life, my relationship that I was in, my networking and business meetings, why is all of this built around drinking? Why am I not comfortable just being myself? And then it started really showing up in my life because a business that, this is how I actually met you, but a family business opened up here in town where we had multiple health studios. And what it meant was now I was working a lot of long hours with people in these studios. And this is when I finally realized the issue that drinking really was being in my life. Because I would go out for lunch and I would start drinking. And I'd have a pitcher of beer, and then I'd get back in my car and drive back to work. And now I'm trying to do a meeting with some employees at 3 p.m, and I'm crashing because I had a plate of nachos and drank a pitcher of beer for lunch. And then after work, I'm still going out and drinking and getting some drinks. And then I go home and I'm drinking even more. And I realized that, well, I don't even, I was in a relationship at that point, a pretty long-term relationship. And I realized that I wasn't having real conversations with my partner because all we did was we drank and partied and had fun. And I was skipping life. And I really started noticing it more and more. I really started thinking about the fact that I didn't really have friends. I didn't really have a strong relationship. I wasn't being who I needed to be to make this business work because I kept drinking. So why? If drinking is doing all these things, I started realizing how often I was actually drinking and driving. And we judge people who drink and drive, and we judge people who get DUIs like, oh my God, they're idiots. But then I realized, you know what? I might not have been stumbling out to my car, but I probably shouldn't be driving after having a pitcher of beer. And then having another drink at a glass of wine at a meeting later on, and then driving home, and then having a drink when I get home, and then driving out to the store to pick up some groceries. I wasn't thinking about it in the moment, but I started really being able to take that step back in the last few months of my drinking, looking at my life going, wow, I'm being irresponsible. I'm putting other people's lives in danger when I'm driving like this. I narrowly avoided an accident one day, leaving a beer party, basically. It was a beer company, I won't say which one, was holding a huge party to help get people to sell more of their beer, help get restaurants to carry it. So obviously there was a tons of drinking. I went to this event, got pretty drunk, and then drove home and almost rear-ended someone, narrowly swerved off and avoided it. And it was a little bit of a waking up moment for me going, okay, there's something to this. Maybe I need to stop drinking. But at that stage in my life, everybody around me drank. And I didn't know anybody. The only stories you hear of people who don't drink are these alcoholics who were on the street, drinking out of a paper bag, begging for change to go buy more alcohol. And it was like, well, that's not me. I'm not that. And it's these, you see on TV, these people in these meetings where they're all sitting around talking about how hard and how bad their life was because of drinking. And I'd look at it and be like, well, I'm not that. I'm still enjoying my life. I'm having fun. I have my health. I have some friends. If that's life without drinking, I don't want it. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to wallow in all the bad things that have happened to me. I want to enjoy life. And the only people I saw enjoying life were people that were drinking. And that was my belief. So even though I was able to look at my life and be like, there's a problem here. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not really connecting with people. I shouldn't need to drink to be able to build a business relationship or a personal relationship. I couldn't see any other alternative. And this is where I got really, really lucky. And this is why this project that we're doing with Sobriety Starts Here, I'm really excited about doing, because I met you and an amazing thing happened. I met you. I had no idea you weren't drinking the day I met you. In fact, I had a beer in my hand and I was talking to you. But a real cool thing happened when I got to know you is you were vibrant. You had energy. You were someone that was living and loving life. And I'll never forget the feeling that I had when I met with you over business and you told me that you were sober and you had been sober for years and years and years. And a light bulb went off in my head. A belief formed for me at that moment that, wow, you can live a great life sober. There are people living this life who aren't drinking. And for me personally in my life, that was the new belief that I was able to jump onto because I could believe it. So before I was looking at all these issues in my life, knowing I should stop drinking, but I never gave myself a positive belief to latch onto. So I'd go a weekend or two trying not to drink and then go, why am I doing this? Screw this, it's more fun drinking. And I was never able to stop. And when I met you, it made this change for me. You gave me that new belief to latch onto. You gave me that hope that life could be fun without drinking. And honestly, I think it was maybe a day or two later that I stopped drinking because I was able to get this belief. And then so what happens was with that new belief in my own life, what did I do? I went home and I dumped out the rest of the alcohol I had. And even that action made me feel good, which helped support this belief that life could be good without drinking. And then I got to know you more and you'd tell me the stories of things you did and the fun things you would do and living life. And eating better, treating yourself with love. So that was one of the first changes that I did. Okay, life is better without drinking and I'm going to treat myself better because I love myself and I don't need to escape from myself. So I started eating better because of you. You told me, hey, eat this kind of food, you'll feel better. And I did. I had more energy. So within days of doing this change, I'm showing up to work better. I'm better in my life. I'm better with myself. My energy's better. My mood's better. Everything is improving and I'm not drinking. So I was able, and I was very lucky this way, I was able to very quickly reinforce this belief that life is better without drinking. And I kept adding things into my life that supported that belief.
And let's not discount the importance of connection, of being with me, someone who was sober, as opposed to continuing to hang out with all of your buddies that were still drinking. Because that was a big part of your change was
100%.
really, getting away from all of the people that weren't supporting you in your goals.
100%. It's every single thing you can do to reinforce that new belief. And again, this is why making that new belief is so important. Because when most people goes, I don't want to keep drinking, so I'm going to stop drinking. I got to that point multiple times where it's like, drinking is stupid. I'm risking my life. I'm risking other people's lives. I'm not having meaningful connections because of drinking. Yet I never stopped. Because all of my habits, all of my lifestyle, all of my friends, everyone around me supported the life of drinking. And here I am saying, I don't want to drink anymore. But everything around me kept saying to drink, it's more fun.
So is there any way, if we are unable to get on board with truly believing a belief that we put out, is there a way we can hack the system and start instead with our habits and our actions or our actions? Can we start there and then reaffirm our belief? Because I know when you've talked to me about this concept before, and I know we talk about it a lot, is that it's like a wheel. Like the beliefs inform the habits inform the actions, and the actions inform the beliefs, and then we go around and around and around. So
Yeah.
can we hack the system, or do you truly believe that starting with the belief, the thing that we want to see materialize in our lives, is that the best way to go about this process?
So you're right. Absolutely, you can trick it. And it's funny you say hack the system. 100%, you are trying to trick your brain to support you. Your brain is by far your biggest enemy. That's why it keeps wanting to bring you back. And so you have a belief. All of your habits are in line. The actions you take every day are in line with that belief. And so what do? Well, drinking is more fun. What do I do? Every time I get home, I crack open a beer and it tastes delicious. So my action is that day I get home, I open a beer, I drink it, and I go, I do love this. That reinforces my belief. And so it is this circle that just goes and goes and goes, always building itself. So you're right. When you make a new belief, and I know this sounds weird, you're not supposed to believe it yet. So what I want you to do, if you're watching this, whenever you get a moment of clarity where you're saying to yourself, oh my God, I need to stop whatever habit you're doing that's hurting your life. This window, even if you have 5 minutes, this is your chance to lay the groundwork.
So what do you mean? Do you mean like if somebody is right now reaching for a drink or a drug of choice, and that's where you're trying to catch people?
Absolutely.
What do you mean?
If you're struggling right now with anything, or maybe you got sober today, maybe you've been sober 48 hours, but you feel like it's a precarious edge and you're probably going to go back to drinking. Or you're watching this right now and you just finished a beer, but you know you don't want to be doing it. Whenever you have that moment of clarity saying that you don't want to do it, here's your chance. Here's what you can do. Pick that new belief. You don't have to believe it right now, but give yourself a new belief that would support not drinking.
So I imagine that for a lot of people, that would be the time for this might be a hungover morning. Because I know for so many of us, it's those moments in the morning after where you reach for your phone to see who you texted or what you said, or you sort of become the detective in your own life and you call friends and you're like, what did I do? Or you look outside like I did in many cases to see if my car was there to figure out, okay, I guess I drove myself home. I think that's a really good time. Maybe if we can all kind of get into that moment where we are super hungover or feeling shitty or coming down or whatever, that might be a really good time to decide on a new belief.
That's a perfect time, because whenever you're in this place of feeling, why am I doing this? That's a perfect time to start setting a new belief. And so and again, it could be anything for you and your situation. It could be something as small as, you know what? I love myself, so I'm going to treat myself better. You might not believe that right away, but that might be a good one for you. You might have something more work-wise. I can do a better job at work if I'm sober. I can be a better parent to my children if I'm sober. Whatever it is, I care about myself and my health, so I'm going to get sober. I'm going to stop doing this thing that's harming me. Whatever belief it is, you don't have to believe it yet. But what happens is by picking that belief, you can now start thinking of that as a separate person. All right, if I were a person who believed that I loved myself and deserved to treat myself better, what actions would I take? What would I do? You might have a habit of stopping by the drive-thru every day on your way home. Is that an action that someone who loved themselves and wanted to treat themselves better, is that something they would do? Probably not. They would get a better meal for their body. So you now know, all right, that's an action. Eat better food. Or maybe I would be a better parent to my kids if I were sober. Well, someone who believed that, what would they do? What are you missing out on? Are you missing an event? Are you grumpy with them in the morning because you're hungover from the night before? What is an action that someone who lived that belief, what is something they would do? Well, they would probably wake up in the morning and maybe play a game with their kids. Or maybe help them get a great breakfast together and ask them what their plans are for that day. Spend more time with them. That's an action. So the power of that is now, and you can, and again, and it could even be 5 minutes where you've made this decision that you're going to be a new person. Write down on a piece of paper, what is that new belief, and what are some actions that a person with that belief would take? Because now your whole goal is anytime you might go drink later tonight. And that's just a reality for a lot of people. You might have a shopping addiction and tomorrow wake up and order another thing on Amazon because a real cool ad popped up in your Facebook and you were compelled to buy it. That's okay, because you now have this piece of paper written down with these actions you're going to take. And all I want you to do is every time you can think of it, do those actions. Pick an action on that piece of paper and do it, and keep reading that new belief at the top of the paper. Because even though you don't believe it, and even though you're not that, you're not that person yet, if you act like it, if your actions act like you're that kind of person, an amazing thing is going to happen. You're enforcing that belief. And as you keep forcing yourself to just do those small actions once a day, multiple times a day, as you go through, it's going to get easier and easier, because as that belief grows in your brain, your habits are going to start becoming in line with that.
And
so
I want you to,
all of your habits are for your bad life.
sorry, repeat.
Force yourself to take those actions. Your habits are going to start reinforcing that new belief, and it'll start becoming automatic.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off there, and I didn't mean to, but it's easy because you talk a lot, and I love it, and I know I do too. So I just wanted to say, it took me a while to kind of understand the difference between actions and habits, and I love the way you explain it. So can you do that now?
Yeah, for most of us, because remember I said it's your beliefs inform your habits, and then your habits inform the actions you take, and your actions reinforce your beliefs. So what the heck does that all mean? Well, in general, on a day-to-day basis, your habits match your actions, right? I have a habit of waking up and brushing my teeth, as an example, let's say. So my belief is that when you wake up, you should brush your teeth because your mouth got dirty overnight and you need to clean it up. That's my belief. So since I'm a kid, you wake up, you brush your teeth. That's a habit, to wake up in the morning and brush my teeth. So what's my action every day in the morning? My action is brushing my teeth. Well, wait, now I just learned that brushing my teeth first thing in the morning when I wake up is actually harming my teeth. It's not, but let's imagine it is. So now I have this new belief that I've just started, this tiny little new belief that I should wait an hour to brush my teeth. So everything in my life now, my belief, when I wake up tomorrow morning, my belief is that I should brush my teeth right away, because this is what I've been told and doing my whole life. My habit is to right away walk and go to brush my teeth. But my action is going to try to not do that. And here's the funny thing. This is a funny test for people who, let's take brushing your teeth, because it's an automatic thing we do the same day in, day out. Change the way you brush your teeth. Give it a try. It's a really funny experiment to do with yourself to show how hard this can be. Do you wet your toothbrush before you brush your teeth? Try not doing it for a week. It's funny because what's going to happen? The next morning I wake up and go, okay, I'm not going to brush my teeth. I wake up, I walk out of the bedroom, and all of a sudden I find myself walking and reaching for my toothbrush because that's my habit. But my new action is to say no. And I put that toothbrush down and I go and I start making breakfast. That's when. The only time your actions aren't in line with your habits is usually when you're trying to make a change.
Okay, so let's bring that to sobriety, because that's what this conversation is, geared around, and what this entire project is all about. So I'm somebody who, my habit is to leave the office, drive past the liquor store or wherever I get my alcohol, buy it, go home, drink it. Like that is what I do. Or I go to my friend's house, or I go to the pub or the bar, whatever. But that is what I do with my life. How do I change? How do I, if I decided that I'm not going to be able to use the belief right out of the gate that I think that living a sober life is better and healthier and better for me, how do I get my actions to be in line? Just like you said about the toothbrush, I'm going to be so used to doing things the way I have done them. How do I do it? How do I keep hacking this system?
Well, let's take, and just because I saw that commercial the other day and it blew my mind, but let's take the beer after work. Because so many people, they get home, they kick off their shoes, and they deserve that drink. So that's your belief. You deserve it. It makes you feel better. You unwind. It relieves stress. That's the belief. The habit is to go home, walk over to wherever your drink is. Maybe it's in the fridge. Maybe you have a little cart set up. Whatever it is, your ritual behind it, and you have that drink. Now all of a sudden, you're trying to say, wait, life is better without that drink. So what does someone who spends more quality time with their family and enjoys life more do instead of having the drink after work? Well, they get home and they go sit down with their kids and ask them about their day. So now that's my new action that I wrote down on that paper. What I normally do is I go home and I sit down and have my drink and take a few minutes to myself. My new action is I'm going to go spend time with my loved ones, maybe my spouse, my family, my kids. So what you need to do is set yourself up for the greatest chance of success. Because when you walk in that door, your habits are going to be walking you towards the fridge with the beer in it. But your new action is to not do it. No, I'm not going to drink that beer. And it's hard to do that. So what do? I'm going to take all the beer out of my fridge. That's step number one. And in fact, this is the biggest thing to do when you're in that moment, you make that decision, you're sitting there going, I need to stop doing this harmful, addictive behavior. And you write down the actions that people take that don't do it. Here's what you do. Set yourself up to win with that action. So if I'm going to go home and not drink the beer in the fridge, well, I'm going to go right now over to the fridge because I know tomorrow when I get home from work, I'm probably going to go to the fridge and drink that beer, even though right now I don't want to. I'm going to go to the fridge, I'm going to grab that beer, and I'm going to give it to a neighbor, or I'm going to pour it down the sink. I'm going to get it out of my house. Because I know tomorrow when I get home from work, my habit's going to be go to the fridge, reach in, grab that beer. So my action, now I'm going to get home from work, I'm going to go over to the fridge, open it, there's no beer there. Now it's a lot easier for me to take that new action to close the fridge, go sit down with my spouse and have a conversation about their day. So it's all about setting yourself up. When you have that moment of clarity and you know you want to make a change, write down the actions that a person living that life you want to live would take and figure out how you can give yourself the best chance to do that. If I leave the beer...
So I was going to just comment on that. I think that's really key is right in the moment when you are feeling shitty, when you are hungover, when you've made a mistake, when things are really going poorly, that is exactly the time to harness the power of changing our habits and our behaviors and our actions and really harness the power of the brain and let it work with us as opposed to always working against us. Because I do know that in my own life, it was, and for so many people that I know, when we hit those moments, that is when we are on our knees surrendering, and that is often where the change has been made from those surrender moments where we know we can't go any lower. And again, it doesn't matter how high the bottom is. We don't all have to lose absolutely everything. I didn't lose everything. I mean, I lost a job. I had to quit a job because I needed to drive for my job. So, but I mean, other than that, I didn't lose everything. And yet to me, it was my whole life felt like it crumbled to the ground. And so I harnessed that. I took that as my opportunity to create a whole new life for myself. And so you're so right with those habits where I now was no longer traveling the same route. I was going from usually I'd leave my office, I would pass the liquor store, and then I would drive to friends' houses, or I would leave the office and drive right to whatever bar we were all going to or restaurant. And those were my habits. And I always made sure that I had alcohol at home. And so changing all of that, adjusting all of that in my life in those first early days, right after I had hit what I call my rock bottom, that was really key for me, because it just really helped to reinforce in those early days where everything is so where your life is just everything's so slippery and everything's so scary and shaky, and you don't have a clue how to put a foot in front of the other. I really relied on these new habits that I was choosing, which were not to drive that way. Obviously I wasn't driving, I lost my license, but so I was being picked up from work, and I was leaving from there and hitting the gym, or I was going home to make a better meal, and just trying to kind of get through those days. But for sure it was huge for me to change those habits and those actions in the early days.
Totally. And that's it. Because it's hard. I mean, even I didn't decide I was going to quit drinking, never drank again. I did drink again, but it gets easier and easier and easier to get back on the path, because you just keep setting yourself up for the biggest success. If you're in the moment, I'm gonna be someone who doesn't drink. I poured out all my alcohol. So at least now, if I'm gonna drink again, I had to go to the store, buy it, take it home and drink. Or I had to go to a restaurant, buy it. And so, all right, I'm in the moment now where I know I want to quit drinking, and I always go out for dinner with my friends and we all drink. While I'm in the moment, I'm going to email and message them all and tell them I'm not drinking anymore, so I'm not having drinks when we go out for dinner. And I know that might be hard, but now you're setting up that action so that when you feel like you're going to be weaker in that moment, you now have a bit of a support system. And if your friends don't support it, I hate to say it, get new friends. But keep looking at what is someone doing who lives the life I want to live. If I want to be sober, what actions do I need to take to live a great, vibrant life and thrive in sobriety? Start taking those actions. It might seem pointless because maybe you can't stop what you're doing, but just keep taking those little actions and keep focusing on that new belief you want to have, because before you know it, you will have it.
It's so interesting, because every conversation that I have with any of the guests that have come on this show, I always ask them, what is the best part of being clean and sober? And I know that we're going to be using that content in cool ways, but I just love that every single answer is unique, but it's always pointing to the vibrancy and how clear and beautiful and amazing it is on this other side. And it's definitely a side that I could have never believed in those early days. So I definitely didn't believe my belief, but it was reinforced through my actions and through my habits. And I really appreciate you taking the time to explain that to us, because I do think that it's really key. And yeah, I love your story. You know how much I love you, and I think you're amazing, and all of the work that you've done to improve your life has been amazing to watch. It's been amazing to witness, and I feel blessed every day that I get to walk this path with you. Thank you, Roger.
I feel the same, and it was meeting you that allowed me to take this path, and that's why if I can help be that example that life can be brighter on the other side of your addiction, I want to do that for other people, because it changed my life, meeting you, getting that new belief in me. And so I just now want to instill that belief in others. Life can be better. It is better. And there is a way through. Just don't give up on yourself yet, because we're not going to.
What a beautiful message. I love that. Really is all about setting yourself up for success, creating a belief even if you don't believe it, because sooner or later you will believe it. There's not a single person that I've interviewed for this entire thing, or you have, that hasn't agreed that living sober is one hell of a lot better than living in that dark shadow that we were of ourselves, that we were living for so long. So if you're looking for examples out there for people who are loving their lives in recovery, look no further than this website. Check out all the different videos and feel connected to others that are in this same realm. I mean, we are all in the same boat. We're all people that are loving our lives and thriving in recovery. So you can be inspired to know that even if those early days are shaky and scary and you feel vulnerable and untethered and just completely, itching in your own skin, and you just can't even imagine a life that is better than what you've got, which seems shocking to even say it. I'm using those words and I'm like, I mean, life was such hell when I was drinking, but at the same time, it was what I knew, and it truly was what I felt defined me. I felt like I had to have alcohol in my life. I could not ever have imagined not being a drinker. I was a drinker. That was my belief, and all of my actions and habits supported that. And so making all of those changes was extremely scary and vulnerable, but it has led me on this incredible path. And we're just so excited to be able to connect with so many people out there that are looking to make these kinds of changes that are scary. And we get that, but the hope is out there. We are the examples that, we're not boring, terrible people. I don't think. Like, we have
We
great
hope
lives.
not.
What did you say?
I hope not.
Yeah, exactly. We have really fun lives, and it truly is better on this other side. We promise you that. So, Roger, was there anything that you wanted to share as far as more of your story? If you wanted to keep going a little bit deeper there, I know that, for you, you don't have that sort of rock bottom, but you had, you shared what you had, and I love that. So, if there was anything else that you wanted to share, I want you to do that. And also, how can people get connected to you? How can they find you if they want to be friends with you or follow your work? Where are the best places to find you?
Well, I mean, like we kind of touched on, my story, you're right, wasn't that downward big crash in a rock bottom to then force me to wake up. It was more of a gradual thing, and I realized that I wasn't living the life that I could be, and I wasn't having the relationships that I should be, and I wasn't doing the job for my family, for my business that I could be while I was drinking. And so if someone's watching this right now and they're maybe relating to that, where it's like, well, my life wasn't completely destroyed, but maybe I want to stop drinking, feel free to connect with me. I mean, just go on Facebook, Roger Deveau, friend me, send me a message. Tell me what you're up to. Tell me where you're at. I'd be more than happy to share more with you and to talk to you and to help you along and help point you in the right direction and really just support. Because I think that all too often we have this black and white image. An alcoholic is this, or an addict is this. So you're either going down this path and this is what your life is, or it's sober and clean and whatever you're going over here. And black and white, we always do this. It's, well, I'm not on the side of the street. I didn't have a rock bottom where I almost died. I didn't lose my kids, so I must not be an alcoholic or I must not have a problem. Right? It doesn't need to be that black and white. And so many times when we look at the examples that are shown to us in the media, it is black and white. So we might feel like there's nowhere for us to go. We don't fit in with the people over here who had to change or die, but we also don't fit in with the people over here who are super spiritual, loving themselves and on this new plane. Where do I fit? And that's kind of where my story landed, was I was kind of in the middle, but just knew that life would be way better on the other side. And it really has been.
Because you were able to see an example of somebody living that life. And I think that, again, speaks to the power of what we're trying to do with this project, because being able to see examples really helps us to reaffirm that belief that life can be better on the other side of addiction. So I just want to point out, you and I don't typically use the word alcoholic anymore. We talk about alcohol use disorder and where we sort of fall on the spectrum. But I'm loving the fact that we don't use it anymore. I used it for a long time. I felt like using the label empowered me, and I felt that way because for so long I was so ashamed of the truth of my life that I couldn't drink alcohol normally, we'll say. Because I couldn't do that, I felt that therefore meant that I had to use the label alcoholic so that I could almost even throw it in people's faces when I finally decided to share my truth. It was like, it's because of this, it's because I'm an alcoholic. That's why I don't drink alcohol. Okay. And I sort of used it almost, in a negative way. And even though I felt truly empowered by using the label, finally embracing it and finally embracing the truth of my life. But it's funny that now, a few years on into recovery, where I really feel like I started truly recovering when I started sharing my story out loud. And up until then, I really believed that I was sober and I was doing pretty well, but I wasn't fully in recovery. And now I feel like I'm thriving. I feel like I'm so lucky to be alive in this time and in this way. I don't resent my story. I don't feel guilty about it. I don't feel less than because of it. I don't feel like I am not as worthy as people that don't have this as an issue in their lives. I feel like we all have shit to deal with, and this is just the shit that I have to deal with, and that's okay. But I just wanted to be mindful of the use of the word alcoholic, because it's not something that we typically use. You and I call ourselves sober or in recovery. I call myself a woman in long-term recovery, and I like that better now for me. But I think that it's a really good point to make, that for everybody, we all have to decide what label kind of fits us, or whether or not we even want to use a label. And we don't have to. We can just simply be non-drinkers, and that's okay, or teetotalers, or sober, or whatever we want to use as a label. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, I think that's a powerful point, because again, it really comes down to one of the main reasons why we built this site in the first place is, don't let anybody tell you and place upon you what they think you need to do. Everybody's different. Everybody's journey is different. Some people thrive on calling themselves an alcoholic because it's a reminder to them every day to keep on the path that they're on. And that's great. I'm not built that way. It doesn't help me by saying I'm an alcoholic. What helps me is focusing on that new healthy belief I have. So I like to just use those terms of clean, sober. I live a clean, sober life because it's way better, way more fun. And for the first time ever, I'm getting to meet me and learn about me and who I am and have meaningful relationships. So that's the thing. It's got to work for you, but just make sure that you're working on yourself. You're taking the right path. Take your time, go through the site, find people that you resonate with, connect with them, reach out to them, follow them, and just keep working towards the goal that you have. And don't beat yourself up, and don't give up if you fall off track every now and then.
I love it. Well, I love you so much, Roger. Thank you so much for this time. It's been awesome. I've really enjoyed it. And I hope a lot of people got something out of your sort of mini training that you offered. I really love it. And just thanks again. Keep being awesome. You know how much I love you. Thank you.
You know I love you.
Talk to you soon.
To get access to all of the free videos and interviews, visit sobrietystartshere.com.